Hey, hi, everyone. Welcome to the Yeg Show. Today we've got Jared VanderMeer. He is the latest author in town. He's also the managing director of Magnolia's Consulting Group. Thanks, Jared, for coming on the Yeg Show.
Hey T, thanks for having me.
Sure thing. So you've written this book, um, If You Sell, You Lose. Why did you write a book?
Well, it was one of the things that I noticed in doing digital marketing every single day for clients is we saw a lot of people putting in a lot of effort and getting nothing from it. They weren't getting the leads, they weren't getting the results or the audience. So taking what we had learned over 5, 10 years is putting it together in this book, If You Sell, You Lose. And the idea behind it was to put together a book that goes through how you can offer value in your content and your digital marketing and take your presence and audience to the next level where it converts and starts to create sales for you down the road.
Why should anyone buy your book? There are tons. I had a look, literally thousands of marketing books out there. What is it you're saying that is different from all the other books out there?
Well, I think the title says it all, T. If You Sell, You Lose is a title that's unconventional. It's not the same as the other books. It kind of stands out for the fact that the focus is on creating value and not selling in the content. And a majority of the other books that are out there talk about how you're going to create a funnel and sell as much as possible. And in reality, it just doesn't work that way. When you put those methods into practice, it doesn't create the audience or the sales you're looking for, or it produces low quality leads. And the reason for that is there's no trust that's been developed with an audience. And throughout my book, that's what I wanted to talk about: how to put together that audience, how to create a digital presence that's going to have perpetual value for you. And that's what we're all looking for.
You talk about value a lot. You say value equals value. How did you become obsessed with value in marketing, Jared?
Well, I talk about that in the first chapter of the book, T, and I don't want to spoil it for everyone. But
Right.
back in the day, I ran a landscaping company, and one of the things I realized when I would bring proposals to the table was when I started going for commercial work is the price didn't matter as much as some of the other things that I could offer. Did I have the right equipment? Could I be there on a Saturday rather than on a Friday? Could you come in the evenings? Could you offer additional value outside of just prices? That's what they were looking for. And at that point in time, I realized that selling and just going in with the lowest price isn't the answer. And ever since then, I've been obsessed with offering value with all of the different businesses and all of the clients that we've worked with.
When you talk about value, you also talk about creativity. And I'm just wondering, what is that link for people just listening to you now who do not know your solid background in content creation? So you talk a lot about creativity. What has that got to do with value?
Well, everybody is unique and everyone has a different creative spirit and what they're going to put in their content and a different authenticity. And I talk about that a bit in the book. I talk about creativity and digital artistry being kind of the pillar of how you create your video, your graphic, and your written content. And when you put those three things together and tell stories and engage emotion, do things that capture attention, that's where your content starts to pay off. And I think too many people out there still, and you hear a lot of other influencers talk about the same thing. They talk about how if you're not yourself, if you're faking it, then everyone's going to know. And it's so true. You have to be yourself. You have to be authentic, and you're going to build your audience around that.
You make a lot of videos before the pandemic struck, and then you took this break. So, what do people need to know about you for them to know that you know what you're talking about? You just said 14 years in this industry. Yeah.
Yeah, we've seen so many different clients across so many different industries and practice so many different ways of running ads and making content that it's come together in a lot of the content I make and a lot of what I talk about on YouTube. YouTube is the #1 platform that I focus on. In my book, I talk about how digital marketing, for anyone who does it, takes a lot of effort and a lot of time. So for my time and effort, I put it into YouTube, and then I take those digital marketing tip videos and I push it across all the other platforms that I have. And going to YouTube is, like I said, my best platform, and that's where I put out a lot of my best content. That's where people can see a lot of the different philosophies that I talk about.
And the problem with YouTube is it's hit or miss. It's either you're good or not good. Everybody drops junk in there, and depending on the quality, you rise up. I think on the algorithm. And the question is, this content creation is expensive. It's time consuming. How do people not give up creating content?
A lot of people give up. I would say a majority give up when we get down to it after 1 or 2 years, because they're not seeing the results. And that's, again, the reason I wrote this book. They're giving up because they're not doing it the right way. They're putting out content that's getting skipped over, and they're not offering that value. They're not creating an audience that's going to pay off in the long run. So finding a way to make really good content, it is expensive. It does take a lot of time, but when you start to create that audience and connect and have touch points with past audience that you've already sold to, it just creates this cycle that keeps providing back and gets people to come back when the time is right to make a purchase for your products or services. And that's what it's all about.
When you talk to us about your creative process, how long did it take to put this book together?
Yeah, the book itself, I definitely made a lot of mistakes along the way. It took 2 years to put together. We started this book about 2 years ago, and I could have been done a lot faster. But now that it's the first book and it's done, I know that the future books are going to go a lot quicker now that we've gone through the process. It started with kind of mapping out the philosophy, going through and making a base for the chapters. Originally, we had written the first couple revs that were very textbookish. So we went back to the drawing board and we tried to make it more personal, add in more examples, add in more value that you guys can resonate with when you read the book. And it turned out well. We went through 7 or 8 revisions, and then we did the designs and put the book together. And finally, we got it published a couple weeks ago.
So what chapter did you enjoy writing the most? For those of you just joining us, we're talking to Jared. He's just written a book, If You Sell, You Lose. He's a digital marketing expert. And we're talking about the book is just published. So what was the best chapter? What would you say was the chapter you wrote that gave you the most satisfaction or joy?
Yeah, no, there was a couple. I just put out a post today that said the Create and Correct chapter was my favorite chapter. I think that people can get a lot of value out of the fact that they have to use content they've discovered that works, but also continue to create new content, test out new fonts, new colors to try to see where their audience is going. So that's my favorite chapter, but one of the ones that's going to provide the most value to you guys when reading the book is the touch point cycle chapter. That's where the philosophy really comes together. You're still going to be creating inbound touch points. You're still going to use your call to actions. You're just going to use it in a cycle and try to create as many subconscious touch points in that cycle as possible before you run that inbound. That way, people are going to pay attention for a long time. And when that inbound comes, they're going to be ready to convert.
You've traveled the world. You have your own business. Now you've written a book. What next for you, Jared?
I'm just gonna, maybe a little bit of relaxing. I'm planning on writing another book at some point in time, but we're gonna get this one off the ground first. And just like everyone else, we're working from home right now. We're gonna get through the pandemic all together, and then take it from there. Just try to keep building the business a little bit more, a little bit at a time, and help everyone out along the way.
So where can our audience find your book?
It's on Amazon. They can just type in my name on Amazon and it will come up, and Tia will get you the links that you can send out to your followers.
Okay, thank you very much, Jared, for coming on the show to talk about your book. If You Sell, You Lose. The book is available on Amazon for you to pick. Thanks again, Jared, for your time.
Thanks, T, for having me. It was awesome.